Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, perhaps good morning, based on where you are. Today, we are going to be talking with Sarah Bond. She is a fellow classmate of mine when I attended Penn State University, and she is an expert in recipes, photography, vegetarian. She brings flair as well. She lived in Netherlands for 5 years, grew up in Alaska, and there she is. Hello, Sarah.
Hi. Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So great to see you. Thank you so much for your time today and
Yeah.
bringing this passion that you have for everything food, photography, recipes, cookbooks, even. I was just giving an introduction, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Kind of, tell us your food resume.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, it goes back to, like you were saying, we went to Penn State together. That's where I studied my bachelor's in human nutrition. And then I went on to continue studying food in the Netherlands. I did my master's in a topic called sensory science, which is basically like the study of the senses as it relates to food. So how you can manipulate different aspects of food to sort of get different things that you want from it. So most people who do that specialization go into the food industry, and I work as a food blogger. So yeah,
So cool. And what is the name of
yeah,
the blog? I didn't get to share that.
yeah. It's called liveeatlearn.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And what about, kind of in college, you were studying nutrition, but was
Mhm.
that where you wanted to go? Did you know exactly that you wanted to pursue this?
I think I always wanted to do food photography in some way. I don't know if you got to it, but we met through as working for as photographers.
Hmm.
And so that was a very different style of photography that was really event based and like photographing people and things that were happening in sports. But I've always been interested in food, so I really wanted to combine those two things. But when I would try and take pictures of food, it would just look so bad. And I also kind of didn't really think that you could actually make a living doing what I'm doing. So I sort of just put it on the back burner and then slowly over time worked up to where I am now, which is working full time.
It's incredible. Congratulations
Yeah.
on everything you've
Thanks.
accomplished.
Thanks.
It's so neat. So personally, kind of, I want to start this because this then leads to what else we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
Vegetarian recipes. Tell us about, vegetarian and how that relates to your lifestyle and
Yeah.
growing up.
Growing up, I had a pretty common, like I'd say, American way of eating. My parents were very focused on. We had a lot of white meat growing up, but a lot of vegetables, but not a lot of like beef or anything like that. So I never really had a taste for um, like heavy meats, I guess.
Mhm.
And then when I grew up and started living by myself, I realized that I actually had no idea how to cook at all. I would just make the same stir fry every night, which was just whatever was in my fridge plus soy sauce and rice. And like it got pretty old pretty fast. So that's sort of how I started the blog, just as a way of keeping myself accountable to learning how to cook. And slowly over time, I just realized that it was the vegetable dishes that I needed more work practicing because it's easy to make meat taste good. You just throw it in the skillet and it's done. Um, so I was more interested in how can we make vegetables taste good? How can we focus on those? And so yeah, it's been a process like that's evolved over many years, but it's
Mhm.
got to where it is now, which is just all vegetarian, all plants, and yeah, always learning.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you do, everything on your blog. I love
Yeah.
seeing your photography. It's always so vibrant, which we're going to talk about that. But everything from snacks and desserts to maybe
Yeah.
drinks, main entrees, everything. So where do
Mhm.
you find that inspiration or these new ideas?
Well, I focus every 2 weeks. I'll do a different featured ingredient, and that's kind of going back to my original. I don't know what I was going for, like the original principle of it, which was to try and learn new ways of cooking new things. So it's got to where now I'll do every 2 weeks, I'll do a different featured ingredient. So this week it's oats, for instance. And
Mm.
so once I have that featured ingredient, it's kind of easier to sort of explore in the boundaries of that. Because if you just think, what can I make for breakfast? There's just endless possibilities, and it's almost like debilitating to know what to make. So if I have those parameters of like, we're going to explore fun ways of cooking with oats, then I can think, well, can I make a drink out of it? Can I make something savory out of it? Can I make something classic for breakfast? And within that, then I'll just sort of try and check all those boxes. So, yeah.
That's so neat. And
Yeah.
it just opens your eyes, beyond what
Yeah.
people typically do, branching
Hmm.
out, like you said in the beginning with stir fries, that is the way to go. And it really kind of stretches your
Yeah.
creativity.
Yeah. And I mean, I would urge anyone, if you're at the grocery store, just go to the produce aisle and just look for a fruit or vegetable that you've never even seen before or never tried before and just get it. And then you can look up recipes for it, but you can also just try it and see what
Mhm.
happens, because the worst case is that, I don't know, you waste a few dollars in vegetables by making something really terrible. But best case is you have a favorite new food. So, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any vegetable or fruit even that kind of stands out in your memory with that approach as surprising you and you loving the most?
Um, hmm. I don't know. What's coming to mind is a vegetable that most people cook with fairly often, which is zucchini.
Hmm.
But during zucchini week, I realized I need to branch away from like the very usual zucchini thing. So I tried making a dessert zucchini crisp, which most people have tried like zucchini bread, and that's a sweet thing, and people know that and like it. But I wanted to take that a step further and make sort of like an apple crisp, but with zucchini. And it turned out just so tasty, because once you sort of remove all the green elements that make it look like a vegetable and taste like zucchini, and you sort of add sweetness and cinnamon and nutmeg, then you can sort of trick your brain into thinking this is apple crisp or a dessert. So I guess it's not like a new vegetable that I've tried, but it's more like that new approach of that new way of looking at something
Hmm.
that's pretty classic. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what about photography? So let's go back to, the college days, working as a photographer for the student newspaper. Your photography always just amazed me. It was so beautiful, and to see you continue that with food, like I said earlier, your images, they're just so vibrant, so colorful. How did
Oh,
you
thanks.
develop that style, and what kind of tips maybe for others who want to take food photography to the next level?
Yeah. Um, I mean, working as at the newspaper was definitely a huge step in just sort of understanding the fundamentals of photography, and just trying to figure out how to make like boring things more interesting. We shot so many just really boring like student council meetings, and it was just, you'd been to 100 of them, so it was just, how can I make this interesting? And so I sort of take that approach and try and apply it to food. Obviously, food is a lot more interesting than I think a student council meeting, but um, I'm always thinking, how can I sort of accentuate the things that are making this dish so good? So, for instance, last week I was shooting a white bean chili, which is not a pretty thing. If you just were to put white bean chili in a bowl, it's just brown mush. Like, it's not appetizing to look at. So then I think, okay, well, what are the things in this that are giving it its life? So I'm thinking like slices of lime, cilantro, maybe like some cheese on top. So I just keep adding elements that sort of bring out everything good about that dish. And then it's going to help to sort of convey the flavors to the people who are looking at it.
Neat. So those
Yeah.
textures, those colors, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
also too, I know angle is it plays a
Mhm.
key in food photography. Talk about, when you're using a bowl of something versus a plate of something, how do you
Mhm.
determine which way to go?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult, I guess, but you sort of learn it as you go. But I'm thinking like, um, what's a hard one? Like chocolate chip cookies. Like
Mm-hmm.
it tastes delicious and they look really nice, but, or maybe better example is sandwiches. Like think of a sandwich. When you're eating it, you're looking at it from like the horizontal angle instead of the top. So my inclination is always to shoot from the top down. So I'm looking at the whole thing. With a sandwich, you would just see a piece of bread and you'd see no layers or anything. So what I like to do when I'm shooting is think, what is the end photo going to be? Or what is like, how is the person going to eat this? And then I'll make the end photo look like that. So with a sandwich, I might cut it in half because they're going to be looking at a half of it. And then you can really see all those layers on the inside. And then maybe I'll stack it so I can like multiply everything they're seeing by 3 or something. And then of course I'd shoot it from like the angle that they're going to be eating it at.
Mm-hmm.
But then like with the soup, I was saying, I don't want to shoot from the side because then I'm just going to see a bowl. I'm not going to see all the nice textures and all the limes and cilantro I threw in there. So in that case, I'd shoot from the top. So it's kind of how are they going to eat it? and then how do you want them to see it? But it really is like a learn as you go and a lot of trial and error. One of the tips I saw once for anyone who is interested in actually really improving their food photography is to take a picture that you really like that's from another food photographer or a food blog or something, and then just try and replicate it. Just try and make the exact recipe and then try to make the exact photo that they did, down to like the lighting. Like, where's the lighting coming from? Is it from behind the bowl or in front of the bowl or to the side? Do they have two bowls stacked in one? So just replicating what they do, and then you can find just a lot of things that you wouldn't notice upon just looking at it.
Yeah. It really does go into that, stepping backwards and getting to the start of the things. All those little things that, flipping through a magazine or scrolling through Instagram, you never think of the angle of the light. For you, I know the backgrounds, those vibrant pinks or greens and blues.
Yeah.
That makes such a huge difference in it.
Yeah.
It really adds to your personal style too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Really dissecting photography has really helped me. Like, I was flipping through, I think it was like a Cuisine at Home magazine or something, and I was doing the same thing. I was dissecting, like, what do I like about this? And this one, if I tell you, I'll tell you this, and then everyone's going to go see the photos, and they'll realize that I just took this exactly. In all of the photos, they had exactly 2 cups of water in the background. And it was like, no matter what photo it was, if it was like chili or cookies, they had like 2 glasses in the background. I was like, that's brilliant, because it just adds sort of like, it makes it look more like a table setting while not really detracting at all. And so that's a style that I've really adopted into mine, just because it sort of adds like a different element, and it's super easy. So yeah, just doing little things like that really help.
Yeah, and you can personalize that too. Everyone has a different glass that they're putting their water in.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's unique in the own way, and that it reminds me of some of the teachers that we had at Penn State. One of them had said, take a little bit of something that you like most from every other professor, and then combine it, and then it becomes your own. And that's exactly what you're talking about here with photography.
Yeah, exactly. And then over time, as you sort of collect all these things that you like, it turns into your own style. And then it just sort of takes on a life of its own, where then you start to understand, like, this is my style and this is what I create. And it feels a lot less like you're copying and more like, this is me now. So yeah, it really is that, though. It's really just borrowing, taking, being inspired by other people, and then turning that into your own.
Very neat. And talk to me, Sarah, about the process, right? So you're preparing the food, creating all the content, photographing it. What is your favorite part of the whole process? What's your least favorite part?
I mean, I think my favorite is probably creating it. I'll have like these really big shoot days where I'll just have all the groceries ready, all the recipes ready to go, and then I'll just shoot like 5 or 6 recipes in a day. And it's exhausting, but it's just, by the end of the day, you feel so creative, and like, it's nice just to have created something. And I love the feeling of having all the photos in my camera. Like, I just did all that, and now here they are in this little card, but it just like feels so like I'm ready to edit. And then usually that night I'll just spend a few hours watching Netflix while I'm editing all the photos, because it's such a mindless thing. And then I guess the least favorite is probably, it sounds bad, but it might be the writing of it. Like, I like writing, but sometimes if I have to do it, then it feels like a chore. But once I'm in the groove of writing, then I actually really enjoy it. So yeah.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Putting it into words is one thing. The cliche saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words is like, well, which words do you choose? And
yeah, it can feel overwhelming to just have like an empty slate, and then you need to fill it with all these words. So I'll usually start by just writing the recipe, and from there I can sort of go into details about, all right, why are we using low sodium vegetable broth, or why are we using celery? And then I sort of start building it out and really try and focus on like the teaching aspect and like the learning new things aspect. So yeah.
Awesome. And I love to just your history and your experience. You have a couple e-cookbooks. You have the one about Popsicles. And then your blog, Live, Eat, Learn. So how do those, you have such a great resume. What got you started in the publication process? Those e-cookbooks and the one about Popsicles.
Well, the e-cookbook started because I wanted to have something that I could um, sort of give people to have more meals within their life, I guess. So, well, I started with it was a reset program basically. So I sort of was inspired in January. That's when our traffic really climbs, and so I realized a lot of people are looking for healthier ideas, and a lot of people had emailed me asking for more not, I guess, intuitive, but comprehensive meal plans. So just everything taken care for them. So I created my first ebook, which was a meal program. And so it's 21 days of just breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then that led to a few other ebooks that were sort of similar that didn't quite take off. And then in 2018, maybe 17, a publisher reached out to me about creating a popsicle cookbook. And so that's in hard form, which is really nice because it's just everything I do is online or on the computer and it doesn't feel tangible. But this is a book that I can actually just hold and it has weight and I can give it to people physically. So it's been really nice to have that. And that was just, it was an exhilarating process and exhausting, and created it all in like 2 or 3 months. So it was a lot, but it's so nice just to have that and to be able to share that with people. So yeah.
Do you have it in your background somewhere you can point to it?
It's over there with my, oh, you can't see it quite. With all my, it's over here. I'll get it real fast. Whoops. Dog toys everywhere.
Your dog is adorable too, by the way.
She's remarkably being pretty quiet, so I'm not sure how that's happening. She's over there.
Aww.
Yeah, but this is it.
So neat. What's your favorite recipe in the book?
There's one, it's called Darling Lemon Thyme, and I really like it just because it combines like herb flavor with buttermilk. It's just like, it's this one. So it's lemony and it's got buttermilk, but it's also got thyme, so it's herby. It's just a really nice, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 5 ingredients. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. But I'm a big lover of like lemon Italian ice, so anyone who likes that would like that one. Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of Italian, I want to go into, you're living in the Netherlands for 5 years, getting your degree there. What was that like, that kind of culture, and being a foodie and a photographer, all of it right there?
It was pretty interesting because Dutch people in the Netherlands, they have a lot different way of looking at food than Americans do. So it's a lot more like, not as intense a flavor. It's more subtle, I guess. So instead of having like a sugar overload like in a popsicle, they would focus more on those different flavors of like, all right, let's add some lemon and let's add some thyme, and like maybe we can add different flavors besides just sweet all the time. And all my Dutch friends always say, like, when they come to America, they're just, why is everything so sweet? Like, the bread is sweet. Bread doesn't need to be sweet. And so it really helped me to sort of, I don't know, look at food a little bit differently. Just not having everything be so intense all the time. And yeah, and then of course being able to travel in Europe was amazing, just because then you get so many more ideas. I did like pasta making classes in Italy, and could go to Belgium and have all the chocolate, and like go to the French fry museum. So there's just like a lot of different ways of looking at food that we don't always get in the States. Yeah.
And I'm sure that adds, whether you realize it or not, to the stuff that you do every day now.
Yeah. And I've tried to become more intentional about sort of every month I'll do like just a gab sesh where I just talk about like, here's what's going on in life. And sort of the point of that is to bring it back to like, these are the things that are inspiring me and the recipes. I know most people just want the recipes, which is fair. And that's why I just have a recipe post without much story behind it. But if people do want the story, I like these little, I don't know, writing time for me, because then I can just sort of say like, I went camping this month, and here are the camping recipes that inspired me to create the recipes that are coming up. So, yeah, so I like to share those now, and that's a bit more recent, but yeah.
So such a neat idea.
Yeah.
And if this is confidential, you don't have to share, but do you have any other, upcoming projects in the works that, you're really, really excited about?
I don't actually, which is pretty rare, because usually I do have some projects on the bench, but let's think. I've worked through the next couple of weeks, like cooking wise, just because I have some traveling coming up. So I'm like getting ahead. And one of the featured sort of ingredients that I'm working on is cheese and wine week. So instead of doing like zucchini or like one ingredient, we're just going to do all cheese and wine recipes. So I'm pretty excited for that one. Got a lot of cheese and wine in my fridge from cooking that.
Very neat.
But,
and
yeah.
a little bit a step above the charcuterie board trend, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but no big projects yet. I've been thinking about maybe doing another meal planning program, but it's not even close to in the works yet. So.
Okay. I'm sure you're super, super busy with everything, and it's
Yeah.
a lot of time, we said before, so much goes into that, and the finished product is just so crisp and clean and well organized, and
Yeah. And that's always the biggest thing for me is that I want to make sure that whatever I create is the finished product, and that it is just something I'm really proud of people buying. Like I was saying, that original meal planning program I did, the first iteration of it, I liked it, but I wasn't super proud of it. And so sometimes when people would buy, it was back when the blog was pretty small. So to be honest, there wasn't a lot of people buying it, but sometimes when people did, I would just have like this sinking feeling like, oh, I'm not proud of it. And so about a year and a half ago, I went through and I just redid every recipe and I just redid the whole thing and made it super tasty and super beautiful. And it's something I'm really proud of now. So, so I'm trying to avoid ever having that feeling again. So everything I do, I just want to make sure I have the time and mental space to really make something good. So
it makes me think of your blog's name, Live, Eat, Learn, that learning part. You said at the beginning, how can I use these new ingredients? It's such an important part of the process for anyone, trying to be a food blogger, from amateur up to the biggest. Eating and learning at the same time, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. It's definitely a name that has taken on different meanings as I've had it. And sometimes I don't always love it because it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue as much as like Pinch of Yum or some of these other big bloggers. But I do like that it has always had a meaning in some way, and that meaning is constantly evolving, but it all is really staying true to what the blog has been. So.
Mm-hmm. And what year did you start that?
2015, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking 6 years into this journey. Yeah. I know we talked about some photography tips, but what would you say to food bloggers out there, or aspiring food bloggers? The 6 years that you've spent with Live, Eat, Learn, where do you start, and what is what's important to keep going and to get to the level that you're at?
I mean, I would say just start where you are now, because it's always evolving and you can always go back. I'm constantly going back to my old recipes and reshooting them and rewriting them to sort of try and make just the whole blog nice. But there's definitely some old posts buried in there that are not the best, and that's okay. I would just say get started, because it's the long game. I mean, I've been doing it for 6 years, and which feels like 30 years in blogging terms. And it took a solid 3 or 4 years for it to even become a sustainable business or like living. So it really has to be something that you're passionate about doing and you're okay doing without making any money, because that's definitely what it is for a while. But then, once you can keep going and keep building that bucket, filling that bucket full of recipes or whatever your website is going to be about, then you can get to a point where it'll start to turn a profit. Yeah.
So it's consistency, endurance, kind of. And back to that kind of style. What is that style that separates you from other people but makes you, stand out?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it definitely takes time to find it. I think when I first got started, like we were saying, I was sort of trying to see the style that other bloggers were using, and I just realized it wasn't working for me. Either I didn't have that writing voice or I didn't have that photography style. But as you sort of find your style, then it can just turn into your own. But it's definitely an endurance sport. It's not a sprint. So as long as you're aware of that and aware of what makes you different from everyone else and what can you offer people, then that they don't have already, then it'll work.
So neat. And it's
Yeah.
just so happy to like talk to you again after,
Yeah.
seeing this develop all these years. It's only going to go up from here for you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Aw, thanks.
You're welcome. So Sarah, and just to everyone who's watching, if you have any questions about what Sarah does, vegetarian recipes, Live, Eat, Learn, feel free to put them in the comments and tag Sarah at Live, Eat, Learn. And Sarah, where can we find more about what you do, where on Instagram, what other social media platforms should they follow?
Yeah.
Where can they find your book, your blog, things like that?
Well, you can find everything on my website, just liveeatlearn.com. All the social media channels are just at Live, Eat, Learn. And if you want to email me, it's just Sarah at liveeatlearn.com. And I always respond to people. So if you have any questions or just want to say hi, I'm always there.
Awesome. And is there anything else? We kind of covered your whole food photography journey. Anything else, Sarah, you'd like to add or share or kind of inspire other foodies out there?
Ooh, I don't think so. I would just say, like, never get stagnant, always keep learning. Always keep learning, always be curious. And the grocery store is a great place to do that. So next time you're in the grocery store, just think, what's new? What can I try? And then just see where it takes you.
Cool. And I'm sure there's going to be people who would love to sample some stuff that, whoever makes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's part of the process too.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Sarah. It was so wonderful to have you, to hear from you, learn about all that you do. And I'm sure people are now inspired, for their own food blogs or just, for cooking dinner tonight, whatever it be. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
You too. See ya.